And Alan is coming in.
It is the 3rd of August. This is Rabbi Levitt, Pele Yoetz.
Okay. Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Eliezer.
Good morning. Good morning, Rabbi.
Now, I see we are up to mitzvahs which are dependent on time. The bottom of page 37. Right.
Good morning.
Good morning, Alan.
Morning, Alan.
So Lou, I'm ready to come back today.
You want me to pick you up to that?
Yeah, please.
Baruch Hashem, in Yoetz Hashem, I will do it.
Yeah, John's feeling better now.
Baruch
Very good.
Hashem. Very good news.
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem. You get better and better.
Better and better. That's what it's all about. We learn Hashem to keep us healthy. As he says, it's done in the past, he'll do it again, right? You know, that they always say on Life B'Tachton.
That's
Just like
right.
in the past, he's helped us, he'll continue to help us.
That's it. Hashem has a proven track record. Okay, so we call upon Lou to start off over here for us. Mitzvahs which are dependent on time on the bottom of page 37 in our English translation.
It is a mitzvah to refrain from doing prohibited creative activity on Shabbos, Yom Kippur, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, and Rosh Hashanah. It is a mitzvah at some time, the weekday, from the weekday on to the holy day, when the holy day enters and when it exits. It is a mitzvah to make a sukkah and to dwell in it. It is a mitzvah to wave a lulav. It is a mitzvah to refrain from some forms of labor on the intermediate days of the festivals. It is a mitzvah to eliminate leavened foods on the eve of Pesach before the 6th hour of the day. It is a mitzvah to write laws, musar, introductions, and commentaries, and to publish them for the benefit of the larger community, both now and for later generations. There is no greater kindness than this. A man of kindness bestows good upon himself. So I don't understand why he's including the mitzvah of publishing a book as a time-related mitzvah.
Oh.
This is still section 20, which is Mr. Minotaura Hatulim B'Yadayim, that depends on your hands or an action you have to do. And that way writing Sepharim would, perfectly fits into that.
My English says mitzvos, which are dependent on time.
Yeah, what do we have in the Hebrew edition over here?
I just have in parentheses the word bisman. There's nothing else as an introduction. I still have this as part of section 20, mitzvahs aseh min Torah hatulim b'yadayim. And then after we just finished, the next thing is going to be 21, mitzvahs los aseh min Torah hatulim b'yadayim. Los asehs that are actions. So, and the bisman seems to, it's some sort of a heading, but it, like Lou says, it's not completely relevant. They're not necessarily time dependent.
Well, I mean, it's true that all the other ones that he mentioned in this little paragraph that was the publisher separated from the larger paragraph. They in fact are all time-related mitzvahs, but
Yeah, but you might have to reach a publisher's deadline for a book, maybe.
Ah,
Best I can come up with.
okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why he put it over here. Okay. Positive mitzvahs from the Torah.
But every other, many, not every, but many of the other mitzvahs he talked about are all time-related mitzvahs. Okay. I'm looking back in your test, it talks about fasting on Sheni, Chamishi, V'Sheni. That's certainly, time-related in the same sense that these are. So I'm not quite sure, what he's bringing up. They do fit into the category of Hatulim V'Yadayim, actions that you can do that have that may have a time-related feature, but it's more that they're actions
Yeah.
or non-actions. We're supposed to be malacha.
You have some time from the weekday into the holiday. It's to make a sukkah, dwell in it. Mitzvah to wave a lulav. Yeah. Yeah, the main point of the matter is that this, what our translator has written over here, mitzvahs which are dependent on time. That's what we're doing is we're wondering whether this all we have in our Hebrew edition just says bisman. So I don't even know if that word is from the Pele Yoetz or whether it's from the publisher either. And you have it in parentheses.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is correct.
So yeah. Yeah. Okay. Very good. So those are all positive mitzvahs from the Torah, dependent on the hands and the whole goof, could be done every day. Those are the ones that he listed so far over here. See, it's if you want to get technical about it, it's a contradiction to the overall heading of section 20. Because he says that these are positive mitzvahs from the Torah, dependent on the hands, that can be done every day. So these mitzvahs that he's listing over here in this little paragraph are not mitzvahs that can be done every day.
Correct.
So this yeah. Okay. Okay, number 21, section 21, negative mitzvahs from the Torah. So these now we're going to talk about negative mitzvahs. There's nothing really negative about a mitzvah. It's a losaseh. It's a mitzvah there's a mitzvah not to do something. But it's certainly a positive thing not to do to do the mitzvah, which is to not do the avera. So, without further ado, let's call upon Meir to continue on page 38.
Okay. It is prohibited to worship idolatry. It is prohibited to make an idol. It is prohibited to fashion the bas relief. I don't know what that means.
What is that?
Of a human being, even just as an art. What's bas? Anyone
Oh,
know?
to make a statue.
Three-dimensional picture.
Oh, okay, a three-dimensional picture.
Suras
Okay.
Adam Haboletis Afilu Lanoi.
Even if it's art.
Oh, it's not a statue. It's a three-dimensional thing. Okay.
Well, a statue would be an example.
Yeah, because, right, because art on a canvas is two-dimensional, basically. Okay. It is prohibited to derive benefit from idolatry, its accoutrements, and metal facing. It's prohibited to murder. One who publicly humiliates another Jew is considered like he committed murder. It is prohibited to steal. It is prohibited to rob. This refers to taking something by force or in any way against the desire of the owner and without his full agreement. It is prohibited to withhold a friend's money, which was received from him willingly, but the recipient does not want to return it. It is prohibited to steal, to rob, or to withhold money owed even from a Gentile. Oh, okay. A person who uses collateral is included in the category of a thief. It is even prohibited to steal from a man from his betterment, so that he will be more careful in guarding his possessions, even when he intends to return them. It is also prohibited to steal one's own belongings that happen to be in the possession of his friend. Oh, rather, he must tell him, "These are mine." A person who borrows his friend's possession without the friend's knowledge is called a thief. A borrower who lends a borrowed object without the owner's permission is called a thief. It is prohibited to deceive others, even a Gentile, with words. If a person knows that there is an imperfection in the item he is selling, he must inform the buyer. It is prohibited to artificially improve the appearance of old items in order that they look like new. It is prohibited to sell non-kosher meat as kosher meat, even to a Gentile. It is prohibited to sort the finer beans on the top of the display in order that they appear like the entire container consists of sorted beans. It is prohibited to send more and more gifts to a person when one knows that the intended recipient will refuse them anyway. For the sake of peace, it may be permissible. Let's see. It is prohibited to attempt to persuade a person to eat by him when one knows that he will refuse. It is possible in this regard as well that it depends on the nature of the person. The will of a man is his honor. All things similar to this are included in the prohibition of "you will not speak harmful words." Maybe that's a good place to stop.
So I have a question about the first sentence. It's prohibited to worship idolatry. How is that something that's dependent on the hands?
Well, let's say one of the standard modes of worship is to prostrate oneself in front of an idol. So that's dependent on the ability to prostrate oneself on the ground involves the use of the hands.
I see. Okay. And what about the sentence halfway down the page? if a person knows that there is an imperfection in the item he is selling, he must inform the buyer. How is that what does that have to do with the hands?
Ah,
Maybe the buyer will have to fix it with his hands.
Maybe the
person
buyer will
knows there's an
slap it.
imperfection in an item he is selling. He must inform the buyer. Oh, so in order to inform the buyer, he has to go like, see over here, see this imperfection in this thing that I'm selling to you? Take notice of it.
Oh boy, Rabbi. I think you're stretching it a little bit. If I have a crack in my engine block that you can't see, I only know about it because I did a compression test and I saw the compression was low in one of the cylinders. And I say to him, there's a very tiny crack in the engine block. I'm not using my hands.
Okay, if generally speaking, one would be able to point it out. And
All right.
the reason why one needs to point it out is because otherwise it's not clear to the buyer what it is that he's referring to. He has to be clear about what it is that he's referring to. And words are not necessarily hands can be could be very important to point out and to show and to demonstrate how it is that it's an imperfection. Maybe he would have to, like, if it's I'll show you it's an imperfection. You put it on like this, or you use it like that, and you see that it it has this, it goes, So in cases where it's impossible to say anything other than tell him about it, because he can't see it because it's hidden. Okay, so that's we can only do what we can do.
But in general, I would think it's much more likely that this would apply to that situation, because if it's obvious, then you don't have to tell him, you can see it. It's only something that he probably is not going to know about it unless you tell him.
I don't know if you could rely on that principle in order and not tell the person about it.
I'm sorry, like, you can't rely on what?
I mean, you have to, I don't think there's any exception to this rule of disclosure by saying, oh, well, that I don't need to tell him that. You could just look at it and you see that it has that imperfection to it. It has to be it needs to be spoken out and pointed out that this is what we're referring to. I don't you say, oh, it's obvious. Anybody who would look at it would see that that's an imperfection over there. I don't know. I don't know if you could rely on that to not and say I don't need to disclose. Okay. Okay, we go to Alan. We're picking up from the bottom line of page 38 in the middle. It is prohibited to be negligent.
Okay. It is prohibited to be negligent in regard to saving the belongings of one's friend from damage or to ignore the opportunity completely. Moreover, one must not be negligent in regard to saving one's friend and must seek strategies as to how to help him in his time of need. It is prohibited to borrow or lend with interest, nor may one be a guarantor, recorder, or witness for a loan with interest. It's prohibited to retain overnight the wages due to a worker. It's prohibited to ignore one's animal which collapsed beneath its burden. Moreover, if a person sees his friend collapsing beneath the burden and does not assist him, he violates a prohibition. It is prohibited to take collateral from a borrower by force. It's prohibited to withhold the collateral from a borrower during the time he needs it. It is prohibited to take collateral from a widow. It's prohibited to take as collateral vessels which are used to make basic food necessities. For example, kneading and cooking utensils or a knife used for slaughter. There are those authorities who say that this applies even when a loan is due. There are other authorities who only prohibit this practice until the loan is due. It's prohibited to prevent a bride and groom from marital intimacy. The evil person who does this will not be forgiven. He has no portion in the world to come. It's prohibited to relocate a property boundary and to expand one's estate by entering into his neighbor's property, even the mere distance of the width of a finger. It's prohibited to erase one of Hashem's holy names. It's prohibited to destroy a fruit-bearing tree. Including prohibition is to have pity on one's money and not to waste even the smallest coin. It's prohibited to cook meat and milk together, even to feed a Gentile or for any other purpose. If a person saw or heard that a Jew is in danger, he's obligated to strive with all his strength and all of his resources to save him from harm. Likewise, if the person was sick, one is obligated to strive to heal him. One who neglects his responsibility is as if he spilled blood. Regarding this, it says in Vayikra, do not stand idle by the blood of your brother. It is prohibited to take a bribe, even a bribe of words. A person needs to refrain from judging anyone from whom he received even the slightest benefit during the judgment. It's prohibited to prevent the immediate burial of a deceased person unless it is for his honor. It's prohibited to cut the hair of one's head in a circle. It's prohibited to cut the corners of one's beard and even under the beard. It's prohibited to use a razor. It's prohibited for a woman to wear a man's clothing. It's prohibited for a man to wear a woman's clothing. The custom of certain city to place a woman's jewelry upon the groom on the night of the wedding is not good. After all of his sins are forgiven, it will be the first sin of his new account. It's prohibited to remove white hairs among the black ones or to dye them. Prohibited to look in a mirror, even occasionally and in jest. Behold, the Torah did not differentiate between constantly or occasionally. It was also not permitted to make a bride and groom happy or to celebrate on Purim. Instead of being a mitzvah, is sin. Is prohibited for a man to shave the hair in his armpits or his pubic hairs. Some authorities say it is a Torah prohibition, and others say it is a rabbinic prohibition. It is prohibited for a Jew to shave, or even in a locale where Gentile men do shave these parts of the body. It's prohibited to hit another Jew, whether adult or child, man or woman, even one's own wife. From the time one raises his hand to hit someone, he is called a wicked person and disqualified from giving testimony. It is only permissible to hit if done in a disciplinary or rebuking fashion. For example, a father to a son or a teacher to a student. It's prohibited to oppress another person. It's prohibited for someone whose fear is upon the face of others or whose request others are embarrassed to violate, to command others to do something great or small, unless it is in their favor and for their benefit. It's prohibited to slaughter a mother and a calf on the same day. It's prohibited to work with two different species of animals together. It is even prohibited if they are not doing any work. For example, a person is pulling the reins of a horse, and behind the horse is a mule whose reins are tied to the saddle of the horse. There are those who prohibit this even if the reins of the mule are not tied. For example, a person is riding on a horse and he is holding the leash of a dog that is running next to him. They consider this kalayim, prohibited mixture of the species. It's prohibited to direct two different species of animals who are in the shared yoke, even with one's horse. Therefore, it's prohibited to greet a Gentile who is plying with two different species of animals, because sometimes the animals will hurry up due to his voice. It's prohibited to breed animals or birds with different species. It's prohibited to grant two different species of trees, even in diaspora. It's prohibited to ask a Gentile to graft two different species of trees for a Jew. A Jew is prohibited to clench one's fist and not give charity according to one's ability. It's prohibited to add or detract from the mitzvah. It's prohibited to walk in the ways of the Gentiles, whether in terms of their dress, their customs, or their sorcery. Rather, the Jewish people must be distinct from them in all regards. It's prohibited to cut oneself as an expression of grief for someone who died. It's prohibited to divide into two groups. This means that there should not be two courts in one city, wherein one court conducts itself in one manner, while the other court conducts itself in a different manner, resulting in what appears, heaven forbid, to be two separate Torahs. It's prohibited to diminish one's wife's food, clothing, or conjugal rights. It's prohibited not to make a fence around one's accessible rooftop. The general rule is that one must mitigate all potential danger. It's prohibited to raise an evil dog or to use a shaky ladder. It is prohibited for a Kohen to defile himself by contact with a corpse or to enter into a house where there is a corpse. There are authorities who rule that the graves of Gentiles also cause ritual defilement in a covered area like the graves of Jews. Tosafot, Bible Mitzvah 114b. It is prohibited for a Kohen enter into a ceremony to bury his father, because when he returns, he will defile others. It's prohibited to commit fraud with measures or weights, even in regards to a Gentile, to sell less than the identified amount or to buy more than the specified amount. The punishment for false measures is very harsh. It's even prohibited to keep in one's house inaccurate measures with the intention of making a urine bowl from them. Rather, one is obligated to destroy any measures that were made fraudulently.
Well,
Okay,
I have some questions.
yeah,
It is prohibited to destroy a fruit-bearing tree.
yeah.
Yep.
Included in this prohibition is to have pity on one's money and not waste even the smallest coin. Why is having pity on one's money included in the prohibition of not destroying a fruit-bearing tree?
Okay, so we all have heard of the prohibition of Bal Tashchis, right? Bal Tashchis is not to waste, not to waste things that could be used, that are usable, right? What's the source of this prohibition? Is it just a svara? It's just a good idea? No, I believe it has its source in this prohibition of not cutting down a fruit-bearing tree. Because if you take a look in Parshas Kitzeitze, where this prohibition is laid out, I believe that the psukim, they will say over there that there's going to come a time when you'll be able to make use of the fruits of this tree, and it's a pity to cut it down right now, because it seems like to you right now that it's a good idea to cut it down. You're making a siege on the city to conquer the enemy. So I think that that Chazal learned from that pasuk that it's not just about wasting a fruit-bearing tree, but it's involves wasting anything that has value.
So in other words, the prohibition of wasting in general is included in the prohibition of destroying a fruit-bearing tree.
Other way around. The prohibition of destroying a fruit-bearing tree is part of don't waste. That's an example of waste, destroying a fruit-bearing tree. The klal is don't waste. The prod is don't destroy a fruit-bearing tree.
So why does it say it in the opposite?
It's a good question, but
And why is he calling out, specifying specifically money? It should say you can't waste anything.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so now we're now we have to you have to take a look in Sefer HaChinuch, I think, on this mitzvah. This is a mitzvah min Torah. It's in Kiseitse. Maybe the Sefer HaChinuch is a good place to look to see how he explains how does he explain that mitzvah. We have some time over here. We'll go get a Sefer HaChinuch.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see, Sefer HaChinuch. Parshas Kiseitse. Sefer Devarim. Wow, a lot of mitzvahs. Well, Okay. still looking for this mitzvah over here in Kiseitse. Wow. Running out of mitzvahs over here. Well, I don't see it. Unless it's not in this parsha. I thought it's in Kiseitse.
Yeah, I don't see it either. I've gone through everything, all the mitzvahs in Kitzitz, I don't see it.
So we need a citation to a pasuk of the mitzvah of cutting down a fruit-bearing tree.
Right.
Maybe it's not in this. Maybe it's not in Kiseitse altogether. Maybe. So where would it be?
Hello? Yes.
Where would it be? Okay, I'm not. I don't want to take any more time now at this point. It's turning into a wild goose chase.
I also have
Another question. Go ahead, Eliezer.
okay, it talks about, a little before Lou, it says, "V'lo hutalo l'simchas chasen akala v'lo l'simchas purim ukadoma." I think
Yeah,
it's
that's
part
one
of-
of my questions also.
Okay, what's he talking about there?
Sorry again.
It says, "V'lo hutalo l'simchas chasen akala." V'lo l'simchas purim kadom. I guess this is, I guess this is to talk about coloring your hair as part of a, Simchas Chassan Akala, or doing something for Purim as a costume or something. Must be that. Okay, never mind.
So you're saying it's saying it's not permitted to make the bride and groom happy or to celebrate Purim by cutting your hair,
Or by coloring. It's
by
talking about
coloring your hair?
coloring your white hairs dark or something.
No color.
Where is this?
So also, v'chein also lehistakel b'mara v'afilu arai v'derek schok osar.
The problem with that explanation that I see is that he's sandwiched this prohibition about a mirror in between
Uh,
the
No
discussion about.
logic. No logic to his ordering, Lou. We found that many times.
Well, it's one thing to say no logic to his ordering, but this is a. I mean, you're relying on the fact that he talks about removing the white hairs, and then he talks about the happiness of the bride and groom.
I understand.
You're using that logic in
I
an
understand.
invalid way.
Is not permitted to make the bride and groom happy or to celebrate on Purim? Oh, I see what you mean. It seems like a non sequitur.
If you go back to the beginning of that sentence, says, "Asur lelakets sa'aros levanos mitoch shecharos o litzavam." It's usher
Right.
to pull out the white hairs from the dark hairs or to dye
Right.
them.
Right?
Again, usher l'tako b'mara, and it's
Right.
similarly usher to stare at a mirror. V'filu arai v'derek soch usher, even temporarily, and as a joke, it's usher. Shrei lo chelik hakasav ben keva la'arai. You're not differentiating between permanent and temporary. Lo huter lo l'simchas chasnakala v'lo l'simchas purim ukadome. And
Also
I'm
not-
saying you can't either dye your hairs or look in a mirror as part of Simchas Chasana or as part of Simchas Purim. I'm not quite understanding it.
Maybe the looking in the mirror is for the purpose of dyeing the hair. Because I mean, it's not prohibited to look in a mirror, is it?
For men to look in a mirror is a sign of vanity. That's the ultimate isser there.
Well,
Okay.
what word does he lose? What word does he use over here to look? I think he said listakel, right?
Right, to stare at.
Yeah, so that's like a in order we could say as follows, just that a person looks in a mirror momentarily just to make sure that he looks decent. That's not exactly the same thing as histochlus. Histochlus is a very
Sure.
intent, very spending a lot of effort in being very, very concerned about how one looks. And for a man, see, it's interesting because over here he didn't say it's prohibited for a man to do so. He just said it's prohibited, period.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit I don't know.
And when I cut my hair, I have to have a mirror. I have to be able to see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Saying it's prohibited to do that.
It's
And when you go to a barber shop, there's usually a huge mirror on the wall, so you can see what the barber's doing.
Oh, well, that's yeah, I don't know why they have the mirror over there. Never figured that one out. Did we have something like that recently? Or maybe that was in some other Seder. There was another reason that was given. Anyway,
I've never seen a woman walk by a mirror and not look in it.
yeah, okay, he's saying it very strongly. He doesn't say it's something to avoid if at all possible. He says it's prohibited. So that's the Pele Yoetz. This is he's there are other views, but I'm just saying that everyone holds that, to unnecessarily look at oneself in a mirror we can understand that that's not something to involve oneself in. If you have as I say, a purpose in having a mirror is basically to make sure that a person is presentable. And so, that's the way that that's the way that we use a mirror. I'm sure that there are some who I'm sure the Pele Yoetz is not saying that, though. He's saying that it's he's saying more than that. But I'm just saying that the prevalent custom, at least amongst prevalent custom in our circles, is that to just make sure that one is looks proper. That is the purpose. Why that would be and that doesn't take a long time. It's just a few moments. That I think is the prevalent custom, to use a mirror for that purpose. And that's even for a man, in other words. But there are some who are stringent in this matter, just like the Pele Yoetz says, that they do not look in a mirror.
Really interesting.
And if they want to know how they look, they ask their wife, say, how do I look?
But if the wife asks the husband, how do I look? The answer is, you look great.
Even
That's
without looking in the
something
mirror,
else.
even without looking in the mirror.
Even without looking at her.
Right. That's Shalom Bayis. Okay. But I don't know what to say about this next sentence. It was also not permitted to make the bride. It was also not permitted. In other words, we have to know what the it was that he's talking about.
Correct.
The it is referring to some type of an activity over here, because obviously it is a great mitzvah to be b'sameach chasen b'kala and to celebrate on Purim. So it would seem that I'm just looking for it in the Hebrew over here. I don't. It's a lot of. This is a very long section over here. Oh, 1 second. Asur lokot saros levanos. Da 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 da. Asur lokot saros levanos mitoch hashachoros ola tzabam. V'kein asur listakel b'mara afilu arai v'chule v'chule. Sharei lo chilek hakosov ben kevel arai. Even occasionally to spend a long time in front of the mirror, to involve oneself in histaklos, to look intently in a mirror, says the Pele Yoetz is asur. V'lo huter lo l'simchas chasen b'kala, v'lo l'simchas purim u'kadoyme. B'mkom mitzvah averahi. It does seem like it does seem to me that he's saying that it's asur to in other words, it is referring back to something that he said before. and even not for the purpose of chassan b'kala, would it be permissible? What is it referring to? Is it referring to staring intently in the mirror, or is it or to cut off white hairs, or it's not perhaps that's what he means. Yeah, like you said, right? Maybe that's what he means.
Okay,
Okay.
Time's up.
Time is up. Okay.
all right.
Okay.
See you tomorrow.